Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? Listen, life is a journey, and it's good to have people on your journey to success who are willing to grow, who are willing to share some directions with you, some pointers, and that's what we're doing here on the Success Journey Show. This is Ricky Venters, and I'm here with none other than Marlon Madden. Marlon, what's good, bro? How you doing?
Hey, I'm reminiscing, Rick. I'm thinking about the weekend that I beat you at this bowling, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, man, we ain't going to talk about that, man.
Hey, travelers, let me tell you. So Ricky and I, we went out bowling. It was a guys' night out. So we had about, 7 guys who went out of bowling.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to say my score was super high, but I got the high for the night. I had 143 in the first game, and Ricky really locked in, and I was really worried because in the second game he went in.
Yeah.
But he fell short 2 points. He got 143.
Yeah.
So I was really happy about that.
Yeah, I was hoping that you didn't bring that up, man, because I was trying to forget that 143 has been haunting me, you know. But I would like to highlight the good part of the story about the locking in, you know. The first round, I didn't do so hot, man, you know.
No, you didn't.
But I made my adjustments. And when I made my adjustments, man, I locked in. But even then, I slipped up a little bit. Had my first foul in bowling, and I fell short, man. It's 2 points short, but it's all good. It is all good, man. All good.
Yeah. Hey, travelers! Once again, we want to thank you for liking, subscribing, going to our iTunes, whatever platform you use, and sharing our journey. What we needed to do is continue to do that. Leave some comments. Go on there on our website, especially if you hear a episode that you like, you could go there and comment on it. Ask the person for more information, if you will, and we'll be able to get that to our guests and definitely get that back to you.
Yeah, Marlon, I'm glad you said that. You know, what we try to do, listeners, is we're looking for feedback, and we're looking for that honest feedback. And we got some feedback from an individual, and they said, hey, you know, as a medical student in the thick of medical school, listening to Earl's episode was honestly motivating and refreshing to hear. I truly enjoy it. And I tell you, man, that right there was just refreshing, just to get that comment, just knowing what it feels like to be in a thick of a situation, you know, to be in the midst of it, not knowing, you know how everything's going to turn out. But then to be able to tune into a podcast and listen and be inspired by someone else's story and be inspired to move on and press on and just, you know, accomplish what you got to accomplish. So thank you so much for leaving your testimonies. Thank you so much for subscribing. And hey, anywhere we can make some improvements, anywhere we can offer more to you, let us know, because that's what we're here to do. All right, Mom, you ready to get to it?
I'm ready to get into it, man. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
Really excited.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some fun today. So, everyone, we have a great guest on today, and it's none other than Radio Mylar. As a graduate of CFC, Mylar is a 15-time award-winning filmmaker. He has written and directed 3 funded short films, and in 2014 directed his first feature, Lure, which has won 4 awards. Mylar, thank you for joining us.
Hello. All right. I see. I told you guys it's going to be excited.
I'm Canadian. It's cold all the time. I've got to be energetic just to warm up, man. That's just.
I hear you, man.
There we go, man. Radio, man. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, man.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man. We're so excited to dive into your story, and I mean, I'm reading your bio. They heard a little bit of your bio in the introduction. And now let's just go in it. Let's tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, a little bit about myself. That wonderful question that makes your brain kind of explode inside of its cave. Okay, so it's cave? Nope, I believe it's called a skull, Mylar. Okay. I've been in love with filmmaking ever since I was a young age, 10 years old, actually. And it's gripped me and it hasn't let me go. And I really wish it had sometimes, because making it as a filmmaker is really, really difficult. We can get more into the details of Canadian filmmaking versus American film parts of the world a little bit later on. So I've been doggedly pursuing filmmaking since a young age. And on the side, I like to do other avenues of storytelling. It's all about stories. Stories will never die. The media of how stories are delivered will change and will alter constantly, but people will always want stories. And so I got into radio. Radio was really fun. And now I'm getting into podcasting. Podcasting is really fun. I did some writing. But basically, I guess I call myself a filmmaker, but in essence, I would be a storyteller.
Love it. So when you said at 10 years old, you fell in love with the filmmaking. I know, and when you said that, I quickly flashed back to when I was 10 years old. And I remember the big, my dad came home with the video recorder for the first time, all proud, had to put the VHS cassettes in it. You had the thing sitting up on your shoulder,
Dude, I had the exact same one. My mother and her boyfriend at the time, they went to Sears and they picked up a shoulder mount VHS camcorder. This thing was okay. And and I was just like, it was as big as me. Okay. It was crazy. And I fell in love with it. I'm like, I never left it alone. So cool that you had the same thing.
Man. I remember taking that thing outside, walking around the house with it. It was fun. But so I didn't fall in love with it, but just hearing your story and falling in love with the filmmaking, tell us a little bit more about that. Was it you going around making home videos? Was you're shooting events? Was it, let's tell us a little bit more about that.
It just never stopped. I don't know what it was. Like the muse just grabbed me at an early age and shook me, but I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life since the age of 10, and it hasn't gone away. So in some regards, I consider myself very lucky. In other regards, I really wish that muse had made me want to be a brain surgeon because, God, filmmaking's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
So I was I volunteered at the local access cable television station as their youngest cameraman ever at 13, interviewing the mayor.
Wow.
I took courses when I was a teenager, and then as soon as I could get into our city's first film school, I jumped aboard and got in, and then just kept going, and kind of lost track along the way, along my 20s, as happens, I think, in life for a lot of people. The 20s are. I remember what I did in my first few years of my 30s, as I wondered what was I doing in my 20s, and it's just like. And so I came back to it. I find a producer, and a producer is extremely important for any director. The director is artistic and creative and crazy and out of bounds, and the producer is the one that kind of guides them with the money and the wisdom. they need one another very much so. So we found each other. Chris was his name, and he had a 5-year plan: make 3 funded short films in Canada, and then with that behind us, do a micro-budget feature film funded through the same government agencies in Canada, and then make our second feature film. Now, this ends on a really crappy note. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with how with telefilm funding.
No, we're not.
No, tell us about it.
Okay, it's okay. This might get a little technical and a little boring, and if it does get technical and boring, feel free to cut it out. Cut out whatever you want. Just go cutting crazy. Okay. So there's in every state and in every province in North America, you probably heard of there's tax incentives for making. So for instance, The Walking Dead was working. It's an incentive. It's like if you come and shoot your film or your television show in our state or in our province, we will give you, as long as you hire a certain amount of local crew. Right, a certain percentage of local crew, we will give you a tax deduction, and it's quite heavy, and it's to inspire job creation, that sort of thing, right?
Okay,
wherever they are, and tax incentives are so important that The Walking Dead was shooting in one particular state. It might have been Georgia, I'm not sure, and for years, and a neighboring state said, we will give you a break of 1% less or more. I should say 1% more on your tax deductions if you pack up everything and move over here and shoot here. And they did for 1%. That's how huge this stuff is. So every state does it, every province does it, and it's to bring in people, it's to bring in business, it's an incentive, it's an investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very important. So in Canada, we've got something called telefilm, a telefilm body, and that does. They're the kind of, how do I word this properly? Okay, so if you are going to, there's money coming from the government to shoot Canadian films. The idea there is to create Canadian jobs for Canadian filmmakers. Okay, if that makes sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
makes sense. Yeah.
They don't just throw it out willy-nilly. You have to climb so many ladders and kiss so many babies and all that stuff. It's a lot of work to do, but you can eventually do it if you prove your worth. So there's, if you have got a budget, a percentage of that budget comes from your tax deductions. A percentage of that budget comes from the provincial equity fund for filmmaking, and a percentage of that budget comes from telefilm equity funding, which is federal. Are you with me so far?
Yeah,
With you.
Okay.
Yep.
And it works. So it's like, pretty much fills out your budget and off you go. But telefilm is the big one. So if you were to go to, Montreal and you wanted to, say you're from Montreal and you've got a director and a screenwriter in Montreal and you want to make a movie in Montreal, you can ask the Montreal, or I suppose it wouldn't be Montreal, it'd be Quebec, the Quebec film governing body for their equity program. And they'd probably say no, but if telefilm was on board first, they'd say yes. So once telefilm comes on board, everything else falls into place.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Okay. Makes sense.
I feel like I'm getting way too technical and this is getting
No.
super boring.
This is great.
No, this is good.
No, this is great for our listeners because there's listeners that want to learn this kind of stuff. And, now they're understanding the dynamics behind the filmmaking.
Okay, cool. Right. Thank you. All right. Yeah. I mean, like I'm coming from doing a ridiculous comedy podcast about trying to wake up in the morning. And so I'm like, I'm worried that I'm like being really technical and boring here, but no, okay. If I can educate people, that's awesome. So essentially through telefilm funding, through which the other funding then followed, we did 3 short films. One cost $65,000, one cost $35,000, and one cost $15,000. And for short films, and they won awards. And then we took those awards and we what we said to telefilm was, we took your money every time and we didn't run away to Barbados with it. We made, and people have done that in the past. They have.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Right. So like, look, we took your money and we did what we said we were going to do. We made a movie. And then there's a micro budget, which is like, they just don't let you make feature films, man. They just don't want anyone having $1 million or more, right? Because that's, so there's micro budget. So we got a micro budget, which was $180,000 to make a feature film. And believe me, it sounds like a lot of money. It is not. It is. It's $180,000 is a lot for one person to have. $180,000 is not a lot for many, 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 many dozens of people to make a movie from. And so we managed to pull it off and it won a few awards. And we're like, oh my God, we pulled it off and it's winning awards and it's like the critics are loving it and it's great. And then see, everyone can make a first feature in Canada. There are loopholes for doing that. There's all kinds of different funding bodies for doing that. There's ways to get in. If you can get your second feature, you are in the door. It's not your first feature that counts. It's your second feature. Okay? Because the second feature, that's when they're giving you a large chunk of money. That's when they're giving you $600,000, $1.2 million, $1.8 million. And so the trust has really been built up. Okay?
Gotcha.
So we had built up to this point. We've done our 3 short films over the course of 5 years. We did our micro budget feature film. Everything was winning awards. Telefilm knew who we were. They were loving us. And then everything fell apart.
Wow.
Everything fell. My entire career fell apart. For the past 4 years, it's been decimated. And it's been horrible. Like, just oh my God.
Wow.
So what happened was, and not to get into too deep, but to go back to the tax incentive program, right?
Okay.
If you're still with me, you remember the tax incentive?
Yes.
Yep. We follow. Yep.
Yeah.
For the states and for the provinces.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They like, if you come and shoot here, we'll give you a tax rebate. If you, whatever, so it's to encourage all that. Nova Scotia had one of the highest tax incentive programs in all of the country. And we knew this. And the government said, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about this tax incentive thing. And we all thought like, okay, sure, we get it. We're the highest out of all the provinces. Yes, let's talk about reducing it. We get it. They didn't want to talk about reducing it. They wanted to talk about getting rid of it entirely, which would have decimated everything. And we spent a year fighting them, trying to explain basic math to them that like, this is an investment. You put money into this, you get more money out of it for the whole and so finally at the end, they kind of agreed to oh my God, it's such a mess. I don't want to go into it because I'll rant for an hour. It's horrifying what they've done here. The system that works for every single state in the US and every single province in Canada no longer exists in Nova Scotia. They have their own system through the Nova Scotia Business Inc. And you have to go to them and ask them, how the heck does your financing thing work for making movies here? No one understands it. Every filmmaker in North America understands how to make movies in every state and every province, but you guys completely reinvented the wheel and nobody understands it.
Nobody understands
it. Not even people in Nova Scotia understand it.
Thank you for listening to the Success Journey Show. Please follow us on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at The Success Journey Show. Also, check out our website at thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the show.
Let me ask you, how did you feel now? Because, when you're on an upward mobility,
yes,
when you're moving up and you're seeing the, like we like to say, the light at the end of the tunnel. So now your second feature or your second feature would be where you'd get the 1.8 or you'd be getting the big bucks. So
and we were on track to getting it. That's the thing. We had a script in development. It was happening.
Oh. So how did you feel when that happened, and how did you overcome the decimation that you're describing?
These are excellent questions. Okay, I was in Texas at the time for a film festival for our. I was at the Houston World Fest Houston International Film Festival for my feature film, and that's when I got the news of everything that was happening back home and how the entire industry was about to be destroyed, and my career was about to be destroyed. And I didn't have any friends in Texas. I was there alone for the film festival, and I'm at a bar having a drink, and I'm reading this news article, and I just start crying. Crying alone at a bar, knowing that not only is my career over, but so is all of my friends. And there's nothing I could do about it. It was awful. I got comfort by someone I had just met there, and they were very kind. And everybody left Nova Scotia. All my filmmaking friends, all the actors, all the crew, they left. They had to. There was no more work. Right? People who had just bought a house with their family and they had to leave. And so there was a mass exodus that happened in 2015, and we've never recovered from it since. And so I became very depressed and drank a lot, and that's not healthy.
No, no, not at all.
So I tried, finally brushing myself off, and I, let's try something. Let's try something new. So let's get into screenwriting. So I'm a director and I'm an editor is what I do. But not so much screenwriting. I've dabbled in it. And there's the Canadian Film Centre in Toronto. And it's one of the most prestigious film schools in the whole country. And a friend of mine suggested that I apply there. And they say usually you have to apply about 4 or 5 times in a row and have them fly you up and interview you before you even get a chance to get in. And for whatever reason, someone was smiling upon me. I got in my first try.
Wow.
Now, I didn't get in as a director. I applied for the director's lab, right? And I sent them my stuff. And I sent them my film, and I sent them, you have to apply with a script that you want to make. So I had just finished writing a script, and I sent them that. And they sent me an email a month later saying, This year, we're allowing some people to apply for more than one lab, such as the writer's lab. Wink, wink. I'm like, okay, I'm picking up what you're throwing down. Sure. So I applied for the writer's lab as well, quote unquote. And I didn't get into director's lab, but I did get into the writer's lab. And so, so I learned all about that. I got some producers. I stayed in Toronto for 5 months. It was hellish, but that's a whole different story. And then I spent the next year and a half writing for producers and realizing that this is not what I want to pursue. And so that was...
Hey, you got to try it to figure it out.
Right? Well, exactly. Yeah, you thought this was going to be where the happy ending came from. It's like, I became a writer and everything's happy. It's like, no, it was kind of hellish, actually, writing for other people who don't know what they're doing. It was just, oh, God, it was bad. It was just been the past, ever since 2015, it's been just like trying and failing and just, ugh. So I developed a lot of anxiety and depression, and it wasn't great. I know this is supposed to be a success podcast about like, how did you make it to the top?
No, man,
no.
Good. You need to hear it.
It's all about a journey. What we tell people is about a journey, and we promote and we tell people that a lot of times failures help you. Not a lot of times. More times than not, failures help you to become successful.
Oh, absolutely.
So when they hear from somebody that you've been a 15-time award-winning filmmaker, right? And you go from that till they pull the rug from under you saying, hey, we're taking all the tax incentives from where you guys are. So the well's dried up. Now you go down and you're saying, okay, now I'm going to go write for people, and I'm going down to CFC. And now I go to CFC and I start that, and I'm figuring, I don't even want to do that. But at the same time, people are hearing you on this podcast. You're smiling, you're laughing, you're upbeat. So I want to know what keeps you going and what's that drive, what's that motivator that keeps you in that same mind frame.
Yeah. What brought the smile back?
What brought the smile back? Okay. That happened this year, actually. You guys are excellent interviewers, by the way. You ask fantastic questions. You recap, and then you bring questions in that have to do with the recap. Like you're very good at your job. So
thank you.
Yeah. So it's been a really rough few years for me. I got to say, and when I feel like my life's purpose and like being a filmmaker isn't something that I do. And I know it sounds cheesy, but I truly feel like it's part of who I am. Mm. I view filmmaking as the penultimate art. There's so many moving pieces, and they all have to work together. And to know how to get a group of people together and have them synergistically, is that a word? Synergistically?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Create something. Think of and each piece, the writing, the cinematography, the lighting, the acting, the set deck, everything has to merge. Everything has to work, or the whole thing doesn't work as a whole. Picture going to a symphony, okay, and all these instruments are just beautifully playing, but there's one guy in a corner banging with a wooden spoon on a jug, okay, and it's just like throwing the whole thing off. So that's what I love about filmmaking. You have to be so meticulous in order to create this beautiful piece of art. So I felt very lost. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to follow. And it was just, I was depressed and I was anxious. And wouldn't you believe it? It was an audiobook. It was a free audiobook that turned things around for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure you guys are familiar with Tim Ferriss.
Yes.
Okay.
Tim Ferriss.
It was not his audiobook.
I was like, right, I got you, man.
Oh man, you're good.
He wrote The 4-Hour Workweek, which is one of my favorite books. I love that book. And it was his assistant who was ironically working 80 hours a week for Timothy Ferriss.
The one that wrote 4-day work week.
Yeah, he was working 80 hours a week. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And he was having such intense bouts of anxiety and depression, and he didn't know what to do. He was making millions of dollars, but he's so anxious and depressed. And
he was doing all the work on that fifth day.
Right. So he quit. He full on quit.
Oh, wow.
And he started his own app company with his friends. And again, they made millions and millions of dollars, but he was still super unhappy. And he was like not only was he depressed, but he was filled with anxiety. And I suffer from anxiety. I don't suffer from depression as much, but I do suffer from anxiety. And I got to tell you, it's for anyone out there who suffers anxiety, it's hell on earth. It's just awful. That's a whole different topic we can podcast in and of itself. Something I've been battling my whole life. So this guy, I forget his name. Gosh, I forget his. I really wish I could remember his name. The name of his podcast, not podcast. It was an audiobook. I remember that. It was called "Play It Away."
Play it away.
Play it away. I recommend it to everybody. That. Yeah. And so basically, he tried everything to combat his anxiety. He tried yoga. He tried meditation. He took anti-anxiety medication. That didn't work. He did everything. Nothing worked until one day he had a business arrangement, a business meeting. He was supposed to met up with some dude, and they were going to have a talk about business, just blah, 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 blah business. And they were going to go for coffee and talk about business. And it was just the same old, same old, same old. And the dude, he was so tired. Something inside of him just wasn't clicking. And the businessman called him up and was like, "Hey, are we still on for that business meeting, the coffee meeting?" And he took a second. He's like, "You know what? I kind of want to go for a catch instead. Do you want to have a game of catch? We could still talk business, but do you want to just go to the park and have a game of catch instead?" And the guy's response, he's like, "What? Yes, I want to have a game of catch. What? Oh my God. Yes, I will rearrange my schedule. You just let me know when's good for you." And so they went and they had a game of catch. And for the first time in a long, long time, he had fun, just for fun's sake, for no reason behind it. There was no like ulterior motive behind the fun. The fun wasn't trying to make him money. The fun wasn't trying to increase his social image on social media. His fun wasn't doing anything other than just fun for fun's sake. And he hadn't done that since he was a kid. And something lit up inside of him. And he said, "Wow, I need more of this." And
wow,
you don't see children running around handing out business cards.
No.
You see them running around, but they're not running to or from anywhere or to get healthy. They're running for fun. And this is something that a lot of us have forgotten. Like you say, it's not about the journey. It's about the destination. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Something we constantly have to remind ourselves. But children never, ever have to remind themselves of that.
Correct.
Man, you Ricky, go ahead, man, because I have my hairs are standing up right now. I love that.
I would just already say, I know the kids don't have to remind themselves. They'll play all day nonstop, not think of anything else.
Right?
I'm telling you.
Try to get my kids to do some chores, and they act like they're dying.
So I get the essence of what you're saying is that you turned around and you took a break from the hustle and bustle, both mentally and physically, and said, "Hey, I need to realign myself and understand what makes me happy." Because I can see that a lot of people that's listening to this, what I want you to get from this is this. A lot of people don't understand their purpose. And when they don't understand their purpose, then what drives them can be the incorrect thing.
Yeah, and absolutely.
And when they get to that destination, that so-called destination that they think they've arrived, they figure out, just like when you went after CFC, you said, "I don't like writing for other people." They might figure that out, but some people just say, "Well, I'm here already. Let me just continue to do it." And what happens is they continue to do it, and they go through that depression and everything of the sort. And what I'm seeing, what you're saying is that you just had to step back, look at the bigger picture, refocus, and engage again.
Yes, and I'll tell you how I did that if you want to hear.
Yes, please.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
And again, it had to do with it was more instructions from that audiobook. He went into greater detail about how to do this. He didn't put a name to it, but I decided to coin the phrase. It's his idea, but I called it reduction therapy. Essentially, we're not born depressed. We're not born with anxiety. Okay?
Yeah.
This is not, okay, sure, yes, there's an exception to every rule, and there are some truly unlucky folk out there with misfiring synapses in their brain where they have depression, they have anxiety for no good reason whatsoever. That is a thing. Absolutely. That's a different thing. Most people who have anxiety, most people who have depression, it's due to something in their life or a lack of something in their life. So I went on this great reduction quest, reducing so many things that were anchoring me to anxiety, that were anchoring me to depression. And on my phone, right to this very day, every Sunday, an alarm pops up saying remove an anchor. And what that means is something that's anchoring me to anxiety, and remove it entirely. So for months, I did this. I got rid of friends. I got rid of family members. Seriously, not got rid of them. I didn't call the mob. But I
got rid of them. Yeah. Hey, don't say that on here, dude. We be getting called for an investigation.
Yeah. I just stopped talking to them is what I mean. They're not bobbing in a swamp somewhere. No. So they're alive. They're totally alive. Yep. So I was living in a very toxic environment, and I moved out. I moved out of the entire house, and there was toxic people who I thought were my friends. And after studying it, like they're really kind of takers and users. And so I stopped, and it wasn't all at once. This thing, they do it one at a time. Once you've gotten rid of one, move on to the next. And then you've got a blank slate. Okay. You're no longer being inundated with stressful things that we think we need, even if it's a job. Even if it's a job that's supporting a house, okay? Or maybe these things are incredibly stressful to you, but for some bizarre reason, you think you have to have them. Well, what happens if you don't? You know?
Wow.
Right? Like, if you're a blank slate, if there's no stress being put on you, there's no stress and depression, that like, then you can start to play from a foundation of purity. And so I thought, well, what used to bring me joy? It's like, well, I really liked being on the radio a lot. That was super fun. So immediately I went back down to the university radio station, and I got my membership. And I went through the training, and I got back on the radio, and God, I had fun. I didn't know if anyone was listening, but I did it anyway. And I brought guests on, and we played music, and it was just for fun. I wasn't making a dime. They weren't paying me, but that wasn't the point, was it?
Nope.
And then I started directing theater for fun, and that was half fun. And then theater comes with its own set of problems. So I had a little bit of fun with that, and then I decided let's leave that as where it is. And then I got into podcasting, and podcasting's been fun. I've been creating this podcast for the past few months, and it's been fun. And like, I'm not going to make any money off this, although it's been gaining traction. So I wasn't expecting that, but like, it's been fun. And the goal is not to make money. The goal is not so that I can make money off of this. The goal is to have more fun. I go out and I seek out people who want to play games, just for playing games, and not like, hey, let's play games in front of Twitch so that we can increase our Twitch followers, Yeah. Let's just have fun. Tomorrow, I'm going over to my friend Reese's place. Him and his father, they're going to make us dinner. And him and his friend, we're all going to play a game of Zombicide, which is this amazingly complicated zombie board game he got off of Kickstarter. And it's hilarious fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm not, this isn't progressing my career. This isn't increasing my social media count. It's soothing my soul. It's making sure that I'm in the company of good people who aren't anxiety inducing and who are creating a sense of fun and joy for me. And ever since I've been able to really wrap my mind around that, I have essentially created for myself a new foundation from which to grow. And from here, I have a much clearer sense, a much clearer mindset of how to get back into the film industry. And I'm taking some time away from it in order to do this, in order to heal, in order to sort of build this mindset so that I can eventually perhaps move to Toronto or move to Vancouver and have an idea of what to do while I'm there. But for now, it's important to not try to grasp for what I had. That died. I'm rebuilding from scratch, a new mindset, and I'm moving forward from a healthier position.
Wow, man, I tell you, wow. Wow. Travelers, I hope you heard what was just said, man. And I will say this, man, that really resonates with me.
Yes, we're talking about it today, Ricky. Talk about it, man.
Yeah, because, I too have gone on a journey, and you get to that point where you're just grinding. You're doing this, you're doing that, and You have some great days, and I have some not so great days. And then in the midst of it, you kind of get lost as to really the whole reason of why you're doing it, and then you look in the mirror, you don't even really recognize yourself.
Right.
And I know a lot of our travelers, a lot of our listeners, they feel that same way. You're doing something, you're getting up every single day, Monday through Friday. You don't recognize yourself. You go through the Mondays comes faster and faster every single week. And it's like, man, am I just existing or am I living? And how do I get back to that place of living again? And I love how you said, hey, you know what? Things didn't go perfectly for me, but through it all, I had some down points in my life. I had some times where I broke down, but even in my breaking down points, there was also times where I rebounded. But in rebounding, I wanted to make sure I didn't bounce back to where I was, but I had a stronger foundation so I can bounce back further.
Exactly.
And that meant a lot to me.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show. You can check us out on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Also on our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Myra, we're talking about this today also, how, we started this podcast, and what we've noticed about this podcast is that it's not self-centered. It's talking about other people's journey. We're on our journey too, but we want to highlight people on their journey, such as yourself and all the great things you've been talking about. And that gives us joy.
I like that a lot. I think that's tremendous, honestly. I was thinking about that just the other day, actually, about how your podcast is about other people and celebrating other people. And I thought that's wonderfully selfless. And in a day of age where that's not even thought of anymore, that word almost barely exists.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Mylar, and I know you talked through this and you thought through this. And I want to ask you this one last question. And you kind of brought it out in what you were saying, but I want you to reiterate it a little bit more. Now, where you are right now, your thought process, with all the experiences that you've had face, with the wisdom that you have now, with the foundation that you're building upon now, what would you say to that 10-year-old kid that fell in love with that video camera the first day it was brought home?
Take it back to Sears. Get it. Try to become a doctor. Okay. Man, that's a hard question to ask. There would have been, there were lights in my eyes. There was just like magic dust all around my head. Nothing could have persuaded me to put that camera down, even if I, if suddenly a time traveling me came from the future, it's like, you must listen to me. I'm you from the future. I'd grab my camera and shoot it. Like, of course, that's just like,
this is great.
No, I mean, everything in your life, like my older brother's a doctor, and he said he actually found it fairly boring most of the time. So like, if anything, I can say that the ups and downs and the chaos of trying to become a filmmaker in Canada, which is admittedly easier than becoming a filmmaker in the States, it made me who I was today. And I like who I am today. Yeah. So I don't think I'd tell him anything. Just give him a better camera, maybe.
Love it. Well, Mylar, man, we really thank you for being on with us. And I mean, there's so much more to your story. I know we could have dove even deeper, but we just want to thank you for sharing us your journey so far. And it sounds like we need to have a follow-up. We do. What happens next?
I'd love that. I would absolutely love that.
Yes, consider us your traveling buddies, and we will tune in with you in the future just to see, where life brings you, where this new foundation rebounds you to, or not. I won't say rebounds you, springs you to in life, and your next venture, your next story. But Mylar, people want to connect with you. People want to know more about the filmmaking world and want to know what they should do. How can they do that?
How can they do that? What? Well, gosh, yeah, you can. Well, as you said earlier, if they can get through, if your audience members have already a way to get in touch with you guys and they have some questions for me, send them my way, and I'll figure it out. I'll figure out some way of having a back and forth conversation.
Perfect.
With those guys.
But you also mentioned that you have a podcast. Tell us what the name of the podcast and how they can.
Oh, the podcast has nothing to do with filmmaking or anything like that. My podcast is ridiculous. Like, I love it. It's just okay. Do we have time? I got 3 minutes to talk about the podcast.
Yeah, okay. Definitely.
So I have my whole life. I have something called delayed sleep phase syndrome. It sounds scary. It's not. It's a technical jargon for night owl. If you're a night owl, you have delayed sleep phase syndrome. It's just that.
I got it. I got it.
Right. So basically, melatonin is naturally released in most people's bodies in the evening time, making you feel the sensation of being tired, which is what allows you to go to sleep. For people who are night owls or delayed sleep phase syndrome, that melatonin is naturally released in the wee hours of the morning. That's when we feel tired. It sucks, right? So I have been to 3 separate sleep clinics, and they finally said, here's a melatonin schedule. What you want to do is every 3 days, you take it 12 hours before you want to wake up, and then you wake up at your 8 hours later, whatever. And then every 3 days, you take melatonin a half hour earlier, and you wake up a half hour earlier. And I've done this before when I was going to shoot my feature film. I actually managed to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, you know what? I don't have a feature film right now pushing me. I don't have a girlfriend who's like giving me encouragement. I'm just by myself. And I know my willpower on this is not going to be great. So I literally started a podcast to get an audience to hold me accountable to waking up earlier and earlier in the mornings. That's it. Wow. That's it. And for as far as that's concerned, it's been a mild success, and mild because I'm still not really great at getting up in the morning. But so what a weird twist has happened, though, is the melatonin has been giving me really, really, really effed up dreams. And I didn't expect that, but it's been happening. And so I wake up early, and it's like, I just remember this bizarre dream. So I'm like, oh my God, I got to grab my phone. I grab my phone, and I'm all groggy. I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on, everybody? Good morning. And then I recap my dream, my melatonin-induced dream to everybody. And then I go back to sleep for a little bit. And then I wake up and I do the rest of the podcast. And that's been what the podcast has turned into. It's a ridiculous 10 minutes, half of which is me recounting a bizarre melatonin-infused dream. The other half is me apologizing for not waking up as early as I should. And it's really fun.
Yeah, I listened to it. It's funny. It's funny.
It's called, for anyone who'd like to come and check it out, it's called Oh, What a Glorious Morning. And you can find it pretty much anywhere. It's on all of the podcast places. So, Oh, What a Glorious Morning. And I would like to put a shout out there that I'm starting something. If any of your listeners have had a weird dream that they want put on my podcast, send it to me. Send it to me in the Anchor app, or you can find me on facebook.com/Oh, What a Glorious Morning, and send me a message. And if you don't want your voice heard on my podcast, that's fine. Write it out and I will read out your dream. How about that? So there's my little 3-minute promo. Thanks for letting me do that.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Awesome. Well, travelers, you heard it. Oh, what a glorious morning. I got it right? Yeah,
but you got to say it with gusto.
Oh, what a glorious morning. There we go.
Yeah.
Check it out. His podcast, In for a Laugh, you're in for a treat. And Mylar, we really do just want to thank you for just sharing your story, sharing your journey with us. Like I said, there's so many other questions that we want to spit at. I wouldn't say spit at you, but we want to ask you. But like I said, we will follow up with you, and travelers, we will have him back on, and we will keep you posted and share his story and his journey as he progresses through life and through his next journeys and next ventures. But check him out on his podcast. If you have any questions for him, directly reach out to us, and we'll get in contact with him with any questions that you may have. But we have come to the end of another episode, and we want to thank you for listening to us. Again, hey, go leave us a review like us, share us, tell your friends about us. And we hope that you enjoy your week, and you'll see us again or hear us again next time on the Success Journey Show. All right, everyone, have a good one.
Thank you so much, guys.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.